again, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Watch Party Wednesday. I'm Lee Gordon, coming to you live from Chicago, home of Brunswick, where we are thrilled to welcome our incredible Freedom Boat Club owners and members from all over the world. And for tonight's Tips on the Dock, we bring back our very own Nick Thomas, Director of Operations, with a very special segment, going to provide us a quick refresher on everything you need to know about VHF radio. So, Nick, how are you doing? And again, I know we've talked about this a lot, but we're just a couple months away from getting back on that boat. I need to get down there quickly.
You need to get down here sooner. I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I hear there's a little bit of snow in your area right now, and there's definitely not snow where I'm at. So yeah, you need to come down. You need to come down soon.
There is. That's why we have the virtual background, so you can't see exactly what I see outside, because it would scare the heck out of you right now. So let's start with some of the basics. You know, our Freedom Learning Center features many resources for our new members to reference when learning how to master VHF radio communications. But can you give us a quick overview of some of the basic things our members need to know before heading out on the water?
Oh, of course. So every single one of our Freedom Boat Club boats has a radio on board. And we're talking about like VHF radios, not stereos that you rock out to like awesome songs on, right? VHF radios are used for the ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communication, right? Handheld radios can be found on all of our inshore boats. In an emergency, they can be used on offshore boats, and our offshore boats have a 25-watt mounted radios on board because we want to make sure that our members are safe while they're further offshore, right? And every radio has volume and squelch, and two of the most common misused features that people have on the radios is they just turn the squelch all the way up, and then you can't hear the radio, right? It doesn't allow transmission, so you want to keep the squelch just as low as possible while still squelching out the static or cutting out the static, right? And then the other is people forget to turn the volume up when they're using the radio, right? And then they'll be hailing people, and they don't hear anything, and they wonder why. And it's because they turned the volume down because they weren't using the radio, and then they started using the radio and they forgot to turn the volume right up, right? So those are like just two quick facts that like will solve 90% of VHF radio issues right there.
So I know we're also used to Alexa and Google and our phones and whatnot, but can you tell us just a little bit more about how the VHF radio channels work?
I certainly can. And you definitely can't say like radio, talk to so-and-so. Like it doesn't work that way. We have several different radio channels on the VHF frequency. Most are all for ship-to-ship or commercial communication. Others are for ship-to-bridges, and some are from ship-to-land. There's even weather channels to keep mariners up to date on the latest weather forecasts. And then, most notably, there's channel 16, which is always monitored by the U.S. Coast Guard, and it's for hailing and distress only. And that's the big one that most everybody uses as their base point.
So I know there's a saying all across the boating world, but certainly at Freedom Boat Club, that you always say safety never takes a holiday. So what are your safety tips that you can provide our members when it comes to VHF radio emergency signals?
Right. Safety first. That's really, I'm glad that's getting out everywhere now. So there's actually 3 different levels of emergency when we're talking about VHF radio emergency signals. There's Securite, Pon, and Mayday, right? And Securite is like navigational safety advice, such as navigational advisories or closures or storms or weathers or even maneuvers for commercial or military vessels, right? And then the next one up is Pan or Pon. And it's used in situations that are urgent but non-life-threatening, right? So if a vessel doesn't know their position and they're lost, or if there's a man overboard recovery going on, or even if a vessel is running low on fuel or has limited steerability, that can be a pan or a pon call. And the last one, again, the most notorious, is a Mayday. It's like everyone, even if you're not a boater, you've heard of a Mayday call, right? It's only supposed to be used in the most dire of needs. It's a serious emergency signal. It's used when there's an immediate danger or loss of life or loss of the vessel, right? It calls on people receiving the Mayday, anybody hearing it, to drop whatever they're doing and immediately begin to render assistance and begin a rescue. I can't underestimate how serious it is to broadcast a Mayday. Like, don't ever joke around with it. It's a very serious thing. Most mariners never have to use it in their entire boating experiences. But in the unlikely event that somebody does, just make sure you have who you are, where you are, why you need assistance, what type of assistance you need, how many people on board, the seaworthiness of the vessel, a description of the vessel, and the U.S. Coast Guard might have you schedule periodic check-ins. So make sure the battery on the VHF radio is up to date, and you got to communicate all that information. But again, people have gone their entire boating life and never had to issue a Mayday, right? So, but that's the big one, and those are the different safety issues with emergency signals on the radios.
So I know you touched on it as well, and it's obviously important, and this is going to be an obvious question, but we want the right answer. When it comes to VHF radio etiquette, why is it so crucially important to get it right?
Right. So the channels are open for everyone, and anyone can hear what you're doing and what you're saying, right? And what you're broadcasting. So you always want to be polite, courteous, and professional at all times when using the radio. And less is definitely more, right? These aren't cell phones. These aren't landlines. It's literally a broadcast going in waves, radio waves, right? So things can get lost, chance, transmission. So the shorter and the bits of information you give need to be punctual and pertinent to whatever you're broadcasting, right? So you might need to hail another vessel on let's just say channel 16. So you say the vessel's name 3 times that you're trying to get a hold of and your boat's name. And when they respond, you then request appropriately flip up or go to channel 68 or 71 or 72. And then you guys would go to that channel on your radio and you would have your conversation that you need to. And again, that would be short, professional, but courteous types of communication. So it's just basic VHF radio etiquette.
Well, Nick, I can't thank you enough for joining us on our Freedom Social Watch Party Wednesday. Safety is the most important thing out on the water, of course. And members, stay tuned next week as we continue to cheers to freedom, family, and fun in 2021.
Hi, I'm Nick Thomas, the Director of Club Operations for Freedom Boat Club. Today, we're going to talk about VHF radios. Every Freedom Boat Club boat has a VHF radio on it. We're not talking about a stereo so you can rock out to your tunes, and we're not talking about walkie-talkies. We're talking about VHF radios used for ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communications. So these are 2 handheld VHF radios. They can be used on our inshore boats and in emergencies for offshore boats. We're going to talk about the lock feature. Right now the keypad's locked, so you can accidentally press the buttons, you can lean up against them, and nothing happens. To take the lock feature off, you select the lock button, and now you can change the channel. If you need to, you can change your volume. And then you can go ahead and lock it back up. So to use the radio, you want to verify what channel you're on, and then locate the push to talk button. When you're ready, depress the push to talk button, count to 2 in your head, relay your message, FBC radio check, and when you're done, release the push to talk button. Radios have different output power. On this radio, we have a low, medium, and high. You want to use the low setting when doing close communication. In the event of an emergency, you can depress the red 6-watt output to maximize the signal strength when talking. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Long Snapper. Hi, I'm Nick Thomas, Director of Club Operations for Freedom Boat Club. Today we're going to talk about when and how to call for distress on a VHF radio. The Mayday distress signal requires the most urgent response. Remember, this signal is only to be used when a person or a boat is threatened by grave or imminent danger and requires assistance. There's 11 simple steps to follow. Turn your VHF radio to channel 16. Distress signal Mayday is supposed to be spoken 3 times. The words "this is" you use once. The name of the vessel in distress is spoken 3 times, and a call sign or boat registration number is spoken once. Then you want to repeat Mayday and the name of the vessel 1 more time. You want to make sure you give the position of the vessel by latitude or longitude, or by a bearing, either true or magnetic, and you have to state which. And the distance to a well-known landmark, such as a navigational aid, a small island, Include any information on the vessel, such as movement, course, speed, or destination. You also want to talk about the nature of the distress, whether it's sinking, a fire, a medical emergency, etc. You want to talk about the kind of assistance that is required, whether you need to have airlift come or you have to have a boat come, the number of persons on board, and any other information which might facilitate the rescue, such as length or tonnage of the vessel, number of persons needing medical attention, color of hull, the cabin, any masks, anything like that that you may have. And then, when you're done, you want to say over. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is long snapper, long snapper, long snapper. FL 213 AB. Mayday, long snapper. We are at ICW channel marker 1, adjacent to Snake Island in Venice, Florida, just east of the Venice Inlet. We have a medical emergency on board. We need medical assistance, emergency medical technicians. There are 3 persons on board. 1 person is injured. We are a white 23-foot cobia offshore center console vessel powered by a Mercury 250 horsepower engine with a white T-top. Over. Stay by the radio if possible, even after the message has been received. The Coast Guard can find you more quickly if you can transmit a signal on which rescue boat or aircraft can then home in on. I hope you never need this, but if you do, you now know what to do.